2027 might be the most important year in cars since the Model T. And I know that sounds dramatic, but just look at the list. You've got a legendary sports car getting a hybrid for the first time in 60 years. You've got an electric car that GM killed coming back from the dead. You've got Toyota, the company that spent a decade saying EVs aren't ready, going full electric on one of their most iconic nameplates. And you've got BMW literally rebuilding itself from the ground up with an entirely new architecture. These aren't concept cars. These aren't maybe 2030 promises. These are cars hitting dealerships in the next 12 to 18 months. And some of them are going to completely change what you're comparing when you walk into a showroom. Now, I haven't driven any of these. Nobody outside the manufacturers has. But I've read the patents. I've read the engineering breakdowns. And most importantly, I've spent weeks reading what current owners of these brands are saying on forums about what they want from the next generation and whether these cars actually deliver it. So here are the 7 new cars coming in 2027 that genuinely have me excited. And more importantly, that might actually be worth your money. Number 7, the Chevrolet Bolt EV. And I'm starting with this one because it might be the most surprising comeback story in the car industry right now. GM discontinued the Bolt in late 2023. Just killed it. The most affordable electric car in America, gone. And owners were furious because the Bolt wasn't some failed experiment. It had one of the highest owner satisfaction ratings of any EV on the market. An owner in Michigan on the Bolt EV forum tracked his costs over 3 years and 52,000 miles. Purchase price through his Chevy dealer, $26,400 after the federal tax credit. His electricity cost for charging at home came to about $38 a month. He ran the numbers against what he'd been spending on gas for his old Chevy Cruze, and he was saving about $140 a month. Insurance through State Farm in Michigan ran him $128 a month for full coverage, which is actually less than what a lot of people pay on a Camry. And maintenance over 3 years, $412 total. Tire rotation, cabin filter, and brake fluid. That's it. And now the Bolt is coming back for 2027 on GM's Ultium platform with an estimated starting price around $27,000 to $30,000. If GM keeps the price where they're promising, this could be the car that finally makes EVs a genuine mass market reality in America. Not a luxury statement, not a tech experiment. Just a car that happens to be electric and costs less per month than most people's car payments on a used Civic. Now, if the Bolt is about affordability, the next car is the exact opposite end of the spectrum, but it's been waiting 8 years for this moment. Number 6, the Audi Q7. The current Q7 has been around since 2016, 10 years. In car years, that's ancient. And if you spend any time on Audizine or the Audi subreddit, current Q7 owners will tell you exactly what they've been waiting for. A modern infotainment system, better fuel economy, and a plug-in hybrid that actually makes sense for daily driving. The 2027 Q7 is a full redesign. New platform, new interior, new everything. And the big news is the plug-in hybrid option in the pipeline. Audi is targeting somewhere around 40 miles of electric-only range, which means your daily commute could be entirely electric while you still have a gas engine for road trips. Here's the financial angle that's interesting. An owner in Connecticut bought his 2020 Q7 Premium Plus for about $54,000 through CarMax. Clean Carfax, 31,000 miles. 3 years later, that car is worth about $32,000 on Kelley Blue Book. That's $22,000 in depreciation in 36 months. And that's actually better than average for that segment. A Mercedes GLE of the same vintage lost about $26,000. The 2027 Q7 is expected to start around $62,000, which puts it right in line with the BMW X5, X-Drive 40i at $65, and the Mercedes GLE 450 at about $63. The question is whether the redesign resets the depreciation curve, and historically, first-year redesigns hold their value about 15% better than end-of-cycle models. So if you're an Audi person who's been waiting, the math actually favors buying the 2027 over picking up a discounted 2025. This next one caught me off guard, because when I think Subaru, I think Outback, I think Forester, I think all-wheel drive in a snowstorm. I do not think 3-row electric SUV. Number 5, the Subaru Getaway. Subaru's first 3-row EV, and honestly, the name alone tells you everything about who this car is for. It's for the family that drives to the campsite, not the family that drives to the valet. Here's what matters. All-wheel drive is standard because it's Subaru, and the day Subaru sells a car without AWD is the day the company ceases to exist. The estimated range is around 300 miles, and the price is expected to land between $45,000 and $52,000, which puts it directly against the Kia EV9 at about $55,000 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 at around $45,000. An Outback owner in Colorado on the Subaru subreddit put it perfectly. He said, "I don't want a tech product. I want a Subaru that happens to be electric." And that's exactly the gap this car is designed to fill. The Solterra, Subaru's current EV, didn't do it. It felt like a Toyota BZ4X with a Subaru badge. The Getaway is supposed to be Subaru's own design on a platform they co-developed. If they get it right, this could be the car that brings the Subaru crowd into the EV world without asking them to give up their identity. Insurance on the current Solterra runs about $155 a month for full coverage through Progressive in Colorado. If the Getaway lands in a similar insurance bracket, that's competitive with the Kia EV9 at about $170. Now, if Subaru going electric surprised you, this next one is going to surprise you for a completely different reason. Number 4, the Toyota Highlander EV. Toyota is dropping the gas engine and the hybrid from the Highlander and going full electric for 2027. Let that sink in. Toyota, the company that built its entire reputation on hybrids. The company whose CEO publicly questioned whether EVs were ready. That company is taking one of their best-selling 3-row SUVs and saying, "No more gas. Electric only." Current Highlander hybrid owners on Toyota Nation are split right down the middle. Half of them are saying, "Finally." The other half are saying, "Why would you ruin the best hybrid SUV on the market?" And honestly, both sides have a point. The current Highlander hybrid starts at about $42,000 and gets about 36 miles per gallon combined. An owner in Oregon bought his 2024 Highlander hybrid through the Toyota dealer for $45,200, financed at 5.4% APR through Toyota Financial for 72 months. Payment comes to about $720 a month. His insurance through GEICO in Oregon runs $212 a month for full coverage, and maintenance over 2 years has been oil changes and tire rotations. Total cost, about $640. The 2027 Highlander EV is expected to start around $48,000 to $55,000, which means the monthly payment jumps, but the fuel cost drops to near zero, and the maintenance should be even lower than the hybrid. The real question is charging infrastructure. If you live in Portland, you're fine. If you live in rural Montana, you might want to hold on to that hybrid for a few more years. Okay, from the most practical car on this list to one that's been generating more Reddit threads per day than any vehicle I've tracked this year. Number 3, the Rivian R2. This is the one Rivian needs to get right. The R1T and R1S are brilliant, but they're also $75,000 to $90,000 vehicles. The R2 is supposed to bring Rivian down to the $45,000 range, which puts it directly against the Tesla Model Y long range at about $47,000. And size-wise, the R2 is closer to a RAV4 than an R1S. Smaller, lighter, more practical for the person who doesn't need to tow a boat, but wants something that feels premium and drives like nothing else in the segment. Current R1T owners on Rivian forums talk about the driving experience like it's a religious conversion. An owner in Austin bought his R1T Adventure for $82,000, financed at 6.1% through his credit union for 72 months. Payment is about $1,350 a month. His insurance through Progressive in Texas runs $340 a month for full coverage, which is steep, but not unusual for an $80,000 vehicle. And his electricity cost for charging at home, about $55 a month on his Texas utility rate. If the R2 comes in at $45,000, the financing picture changes dramatically. At the same 6.1% for 72 months, you're looking at about $740 a month, almost half the R1T payment. And insurance should drop too because the vehicle value is lower. If Rivian can deliver the R2 on time, on price, and with the same build quality as the R1T, this could be the car that takes them from cool startup to real car company. From the future of accessible EVs to something completely different, something that honestly, I never thought I'd see. Number 2, the Porsche 911 Hybrid, the 992.2, the first hybrid 911 in the car's 60-plus year history. And I need to be honest with you, when I first read about this, my gut reaction was, why? The 911 is perfect. You don't put a hybrid system in a perfect car. That's like adding a spoiler to the Mona Lisa. But then I read what Porsche is actually doing, and it started to make sense. The hybrid system adds about 70 horsepower and fills in the torque gap at low RPMs, where the flat six has always been a little lazy. It doesn't add much weight, maybe 150 pounds, and it doesn't change the character. The flat 6 is still there, still screaming to redline, still sounding like nothing else on the road. Current 911 owners on Renlist are cautiously optimistic. And here's the financial angle that makes this interesting. The 911 has the best resale value of any sports car on the market. An owner in New Jersey bought his 2020 Carrera S for $131,000 through the Porsche dealer. 3 years later, Kelley Blue Book values it at about $112,000. That's only $19,000 in depreciation over 3 years on a car he drove 14,000 miles a year. Compare that to a Mercedes-AMG GT that lost about $45,000 in the same period. The 2027 911 Carrera GTS Hybrid is expected to start around $145,000. Insurance on a current 911 through State Farm in New Jersey runs about $350 a month for full coverage. If you can afford the entry price, the 911 might be the only car on this list that actually makes you money because they never stop appreciating. And that brings us to number 1, the car that, if it works, will change BMW forever. Number 1, the BMW iX3 Neue Klasse. This is not a facelift. This is not an update. This is BMW starting over. The Neue Klasse, German for new class, is an entirely new architecture, new battery technology, new motors, new software, new everything. The current iX was BMW's first real EV, and it's a good car, but it feels like BMW bolted an electric powertrain onto a platform designed for gas engines. The Neue Klasse iX3 is what happens when you design the car as an EV from the first sketch. Expected specs, dual motor, all-wheel drive, somewhere around 370 miles of range. And the price, this is the big one, is expected to start around $55,000 to $65,000. The current iX xDrive 50 starts at $87,000, so BMW is promising Neue Klasse technology at a price point that's $20,000 to $30,000 lower than their current EV. An owner of the current iX on Bimmer Post in California paid $89,000 for his xDrive 50. Financed at 5.8% through BMW Financial for 60 months. Payment comes to about $1,700 a month. Insurance through Progressive in California runs him $410 a month for full coverage. And his biggest complaint isn't the car, it's the depreciation. His 2023 iX has already lost about $22,000 in value in 2 years. If the Neue Klasse iX3 comes in at $60,000, the monthly payment at the same rate drops to about $1,150. Insurance should be lower because the vehicle value is lower. And if BMW gets the depreciation curve under control, which is the whole point of making the Neue Klasse more desirable, this could be the car that finally makes people say, okay, BMW gets EVs. And honestly, that's the car on this list I'm watching the closest. So there it is, 7 cars. From a $27,000 Chevy Bolt that might change what affordable EV means, all the way up to a $145,000 Porsche 911 that's doing something nobody thought Porsche would ever do. And somewhere in the middle, you've got BMW rebuilding itself, Toyota going full electric on the Highlander, and Rivian trying to become a real car company with the R2. Daniel's call. If I had to put money on one car from this list being the most important 5 years from now, the BMW iX3 Neue Klasse, not because it's the most exciting, that's the 911, not because it's the best value, that's probably the Bolt, but because if BMW gets this right, every other luxury brand has to respond. And that competition is what makes every car on this list better for you. If you want to see what the cheapest new cars of 2026 actually cost to own, real numbers, real owners, that video is right here. And if you want the list of hybrid SUVs that are saving people thousands on gas right now, that one's here too. I'll see you in the next one.